Have you ever felt like you don't belong in this world? As if no matter how hard you try, you're different, set apart. Maybe your life has been filled with battles that others don't seem to face. Or perhaps, deep inside, you feel an unshakable pull towards something greater, something beyond what this world offers. What if I told you that these struggles, this calling, this rejection are not coincidences? They are signs that God has chosen you. The truth is, not everyone is chosen. The Bible is clear. Many are called, but few are chosen. Matthew 22:14. Being chosen by God doesn't mean an easy life. It means a life with a divine purpose. And today, we are going to uncover 3 unmistakable signs that prove you are one of the chosen ones. If these signs resonate with you, then it's time to stop questioning and start embracing the calling that God has placed upon your life. But before we dive in, I want to know, have you ever felt like God was setting you apart for something bigger? Let me know in the comments. And if you believe in the power of faith, Jesus Christ, and the truth of the Bible, make sure to subscribe to this channel right now. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear might just confirm something you felt your entire life. Life as one of God's chosen ones is not about ease, far from it. If anything, it's marked by trials that test the very core of one's faith. Think about Joseph, thrown into a pit by his own brothers and later imprisoned for a crime he never committed. Yet through every hardship, God was preparing him for something greater. The same might be happening in your life. When challenges seem relentless, when betrayal stings, when prayers seem to go unanswered, it is not because you are abandoned. It is because you are being refined. God's chosen are not spared from suffering. They are shaped by it. The fire you are walking through is not meant to destroy you, but to purify you, much like gold in the furnace. Zechariah 13:9. One of the clearest signs that you are chosen is that your battles are relentless. The enemy does not attack those who are already his, but he will go after those who are set apart for God's plan. Have you ever wondered why your life seems harder than others? Why doors close when they seem so close to opening? Why every step of progress is met with resistance? This is not mere misfortune, it is spiritual warfare. Satan does not fight against those who pose no threat. He fights against those who are destined to shake the kingdom of darkness. The Bible reminds us in John 16:33 that, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." Consider Job, a man who lived righteously yet lost everything, his family, his health, his possessions. Was it because he was forsaken? No, it was because God trusted him with the trial, knowing that through it, Job's faith would be strengthened and his reward would be greater. Perhaps the hardships you face are God's way of preparing you for something beyond what you can see. Many people walk away from faith when life gets difficult, but the chosen ones endure. They understand that suffering is not pointless, but part of the divine process. Romans 5:3-4 teaches us that suffering produces perseverance, and perseverance, character. Every tear you have shed, every struggle you have endured, is forming something powerful within you. So, how do you respond to these trials? Do you see them as proof that God has forgotten you, or do you recognize them as training for something bigger? Many of God's greatest warriors have gone through seasons of suffering so intense that they felt like giving up, but they didn't. And because of their endurance, their faith became unshakable. When you are chosen, life does not get easier, but you become stronger. Each trial, each setback is a tool in God's hands, refining your faith and preparing you for a calling you may not even fully understand yet. If life has been unusually tough for you, if every victory is met with opposition, if every moment of peace is short-lived before another battle begins, take heart. You are not being punished, you are being positioned. The chosen ones are not called to an easy life, but to a purposeful one. God does not remove the fire. He walks with you through it. And those who endure will emerge with a faith so refined that nothing in this world can shake them. The question is, will you trust the process? From a young age, have you ever felt like you didn't quite belong, as if something inside you was pulling you toward a greater purpose, even when you couldn't fully understand it? This deep inner calling is one of the strongest signs that God has chosen you. It's not just a fleeting thought or a moment of inspiration. It's a persistent, unshakable feeling that there is more to your life than what meets the eye. The Bible speaks about this in Jeremiah 29:11, where God says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." That pull you feel, that restless longing for something beyond. The ordinary is not your imagination. It is the voice of God calling you toward His divine plan. Many of the greatest figures in the Bible experienced this inner stirring long before they stepped into their purpose. Moses felt it while growing up in Pharaoh's palace, sensing that he was meant for something beyond royalty. Samuel heard God's voice calling him as a child, even when he didn't recognize it at first. 1 Samuel 3:4-10. Even Jesus, as a boy, stayed behind in the temple, drawn to the work of his Father, Luke 2:49. If you have always felt different, as if the world's values never quite aligned with your soul, it's because you were never meant to fit in. The chosen ones are set apart. They are not driven by fame, wealth, or material success, but by something far deeper, a hunger for truth, purpose, and a life that glorifies God. This calling often brings an undeniable sense of urgency. You might have tried to ignore it, distract yourself with worldly things, or even convince yourself that you're not worthy. But no matter what you do, it keeps coming back. It whispers to you in quiet moments. It stirs your spirit when you hear a certain message. It makes you restless when you try to walk away. God does not let His chosen ones stay comfortable in mediocrity. He places a holy discontent within them, a longing for something beyond what this world can offer. And the longer you ignore it, the stronger it grows. This is why Jesus said in John 6:44, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws them." That pull you feel, it's not random, it's divine. But with this calling comes a responsibility. The Bible is filled with stories of people who tried to run from their purpose. Jonah fled from God's mission, only to be swallowed by a great fish and redirected back to where he was meant to be. Jonah 1:17. Paul, once a persecutor of Christians, had his entire life transformed when God called him on the road to Damascus, Acts 9:3-6. There comes a moment when you must decide, will you answer the call or will you resist it? God's chosen ones do not live aimless lives. They step forward in faith even when they don't have all the answers, trusting that He will guide their every step. If you have always felt a deep sense of purpose, if the things of this world no longer satisfy you, and if your heart yearns for something eternal, then know that you are being called. This is not a coincidence. God does not place a calling on someone's life without equipping them for it. The question is not whether you are chosen, but whether you will respond. Will you embrace your calling or will you run from it? One of the clearest signs that you are chosen by God is that the world does not accept you. You have always felt different, out of place, like you don't truly belong. No matter how much you try to fit in, there's something about you that makes others uncomfortable. Perhaps you've been mocked for your faith, criticized for your beliefs, or excluded simply because your presence convicts those around you. Jesus Himself warned us about this in John 15:18-19. If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. But as it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you. out of the world. That is why the world hates you. If you have faced rejection, ridicule, or isolation because of your walk with God, take heart. You are in good company. Throughout the Bible, we see that those whom God chooses are often misunderstood, even despised. Noah was mocked for building the ark, but he was the only one who survived the flood. Genesis 7:23. Joseph was hated by his own brothers and sold into slavery, yet God raised him to a position of power. Genesis 50:20. Even Jesus, the Son of God, was rejected by his own people, crucified despite being innocent. Rejection is not a sign of failure. It is proof that you are set apart. If you were just like everyone else, the world would embrace you. But because you carry the light of Christ, darkness resists you. This rejection often manifests in painful ways. You might feel alone in your convictions, watching as those around you indulge in sin without remorse. Friends distance themselves from you. Family members may not understand your commitment to God. Even in the workplace or among peers, you find yourself at odds with the culture around you. It's tempting to question yourself, to wonder if you're being too extreme, too radical in your faith. But the truth is, you were never meant to blend in. Jesus said in Matthew 7:14, "But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. The chosen ones walk a different path, a narrow, difficult road that leads to eternal life." But here's the encouragement. Your rejection by the world is your validation by God. When you suffer for your faith, it means you are truly walking in His footsteps. 1 Peter 4:14 reminds us, "If you are insulted because of the name of Christ, you are blessed, for the Spirit of glory and of God rests on you." The rejection, the loneliness, the misunderstandings, they are all signs that you are marked for something greater. And while the world may turn its back on you, God never will. He sees every tear, hears every prayer, and knows the weight of every burden you carry. So what should you do when the world rejects you? Stand firm. Do not compromise your faith for acceptance. Do not water down your convictions to fit in where you were never meant to belong. Instead, draw closer to God. Seek His approval above all else. Surround yourself with those who share your faith, and remember, the world may reject you, but heaven rejoices over you. And in the end, it is not the approval of the world that matters, but the words of Jesus when He says, "Well done, good and faithful servant," Matthew 25:23. Being chosen by God is not about living an easy or comfortable life. It's about being shaped, tested, and refined for a purpose that is greater than anything this world can offer. The trials you face, the deep calling within you, and the rejection by the world are not coincidences. They are signs that God has set you apart, that He has placed His hand upon your life, and that He is preparing you for something far beyond what you can imagine. But being chosen also comes with a choice. Will you embrace this calling, or will you resist it? Will you trust God's process, or will you allow the struggles of life to shake your faith? The path of the chosen is not for the faint of heart, but for those who are willing to surrender everything for the sake of Jesus Christ. If you see these signs in your life, do not be discouraged. Rejoice, because it means God is working in you, molding you into the person He created you to be. Every trial, every battle, and every rejection is not a setback. It is a setup for something greater. Romans 8:28 reminds us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." That means nothing in your life is wasted. The pain, the struggles, the moments of doubt, all of it is part of your transformation. Just as gold is purified through fire, your faith is being strengthened through every test you endure, but you must remain faithful. Many are called, but few are chosen. Matthew 22:14. To be chosen is not simply about recognizing the signs, but about living a life that reflects the calling. Prayer must be your foundation, the Bible must be your guide, and faith must be your weapon. Seek God daily, ask Him to reveal His purpose for you, and trust that even when things don't make sense, He is still in control. Do not let fear, doubt, or rejection hold you back from stepping into your destiny. Remember, the enemy only attacks those who are a threat. The opposition you face is proof that you are walking in divine purpose. As you reflect on everything you have heard today, take a moment to examine your life. Do you recognize these signs? Have you experienced the trials, the calling, the rejection that set apart the chosen ones? If so, know that you are not alone. God is with you in every battle, and He will never forsake you. This journey is not easy, but it is worth it. One day, when you stand before the throne of God, you will see that every hardship had a purpose, every tear was counted, and every sacrifice was worth it. Stay strong, remain faithful, and trust in God's perfect plan for your life. Now that you've heard the 3 signs, let me ask you, do you see them in your own life? Have you faced relentless challenges, felt a deep calling, or experienced rejection from the world? If so, don't ignore it. God is speaking to you. He has set you apart for something greater, and it's time to embrace that calling with faith and boldness. Tell me in the comments, which of these signs resonated with you the most? I want to hear your testimony. And if this message spoke to your heart, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss powerful revelations like this. Before you go, I have another message that will strengthen your faith. Even further, it's right here on the screen. Click on it now and continue this journey of spiritual growth. May God bless you abundantly. This is Marco, and I'll see you in the next video.